Issue 223. For some reason, Sonic and Sally's date seems to be them staking out Mina's free concert. First off, free concert? But concerts are how musicians make their money. She just missed out on thousands of dollars! And while Sally says she wants them to be prepared if things get out of hand again like last time, I don't see how they could help. Why are any of the freedom fighters going to her concert after last time? Mina says that she wanted to lighten the mood for the city. Unfortunately, this really weird decision to have a free concert by Mina was only there to force the concept of letting Jeffrey get a hold of a microphone, rallying against Nicole to install fear into the public for Ixis, who says that he'll save everybody from Nicole. I can't say this with a straight face. This is so stupid. Well, not necessarily, well, maybe, but Ixis acting like a good guy. I mean, thing is though, I know he's not gonna kill her, for some reason. So Ixis has to be lying about saving them from Nicole. How could he imprison an AI that the city is made out of? Nicole says that she only turns the city against threats like Ixis, who insists that her technology can't stand against his magic. And he's right, somehow. Let's go over again what it's been established he can do before Ian Flynn showed up. He has elemental powers, he can change into those elements, he can brainwash, and there was this thing where he had to turn people into crystal to be able to control them or attack them, as Sonic pointed out that he had to do that and give him that kind of power to use magic against them. But then it was really confusing because Ixis said that Ixis wasn't really him and returned to the king. So maybe that's not really the case for the real Ixis? Okay, so where in his magic does it say that he's immune to Nicole teleporting him away to a cell with her nanites? Ixis tells Jeffrey to keep the rabble off his back, and he runs up to the castle, being able to keep up with Sonic because of his wind speed. Sally tells the scared civilians that the Royal Guard will go after Jeffrey and orders the freedom fighters to back up Sonic. Jeffrey orders the guards to stand down as commander of the Secret Service, and they stop, looking confused, even though Sally's clearly saying he's a traitor. They're the definition of lawful stupid. They have no idea what the right thing to do is. Jeffrey says he's acting on the king's orders under top secret business and manipulates them into standing down. Antoine attacks Jeffrey, going back to saying he stole his father's idea of the Rebel Underground, which feels much more justified by this point. And Jeffrey easily attacks him while Antoine has annoyingly drawn eyes. Then Jeffrey punches Bunny in the face effortlessly, winning against her even though she's a very strong cyborg with a force field. Sounds like bullshit to me. Jeffrey says that Amy and Tails are circling around him in a predictable attack strategy, while Sally will be right here for the ambush. I really have to wonder how he did so well in a fight against all of them at once. But before we can get that answered, Nicole traps him in a bubble, but before Sally can finish her sentence after handling the bigger threat, we cut away with Jeffrey saying that he's just full of surprises. How? I mean, he couldn't have been training with Ixis for that long. Over at the Egg Dome, Eggman tells Noddly to be prepared for launch in 10 minutes, where he'll meet him at the Zone Gate. Whatever that is, that came out of nowhere. Linda says that the hull damage I don't remember hearing about is repaired, and they're ready for launch if his mission succeeds. Sonic gets stopped from following Ixis by the sand rising up in a solid structure, and some crystals blocking the way to the castle entrance. Okay, you see how the castle has a moat? Well, the reason castles have moats is so that they can lift and raise and put down the drawbridge at will to restrict access to the castle. This castle does not have a drawbridge, so what's the point of the moat? It's just there for decoration. The drawbridge should have been lifted up, preventing Ixis from going in, so that's another forced concept, because Nicole should have designed the castle to have better security. We see the Council of Acorns, with Ellie saying that he promised Rotor they'd debate the issue of Nicole, even though you'd really think Rotor would be promised the opposite to protect her from being voted against. That was stupid. Ixis keeps himself in the room with a terrified council by summoning Crystal, and says that he's taking over the kingdom as a great justice. Jeffrey, having somehow broken out of the bubble, explains while holding his own in the fight against all of the heroes somehow that he's always served the king, but nobody specified to him which king. And with old Mobotropolis gone and the crown sharing power with the freaking council, he had to act before the rightful king lost everything. this logic would make sense if he wasn't talking about Ixis. Sally says his reasoning doesn't make any sense, and Jeffrey doesn't bother to explain why he's supporting Ixis at all after that. When even the characters in the story know that a character's motivations make no sense, when the writer has to think to have them say that, maybe he should realize there's a problem with conveyance. He says that he's been at this for years, and circumstances just force him to drop subtlety. Jeffrey at least looks depressed as he reveals that Hershey's been dead for a while. Since he looks sad, he couldn't have been the one who did it. Ixis tells the council about the king swearing fealty to him in the Zone of Silence, and says to the angry council that he will honor the people's will and maintain the council, saying he's not their enemy. They'd have to be really stupid to buy that. He then says that he doesn't hold a grudge against the Acorn line. Except one, he was insulting Jeffrey for not getting rid of the Acorn, so he's obviously lying here. And two, with his evil smirk, only a complete idiot would buy his lines. I think the biggest problem with the Ixis trying to be a good guy plot point is honestly the art. The art always tries to make him look as evil as physically possible. So it just destroys the willing suspension of disbelief that anyone would buy it. Elliot says that he did unforgivable things to his father, and Sonic jumps out of nowhere attacking Ixis as he says that he forgot to cover the windows. So did he get up to the windows by jumping 50 feet in the air too? He tells Elias that Jeffrey wanted the emerald just to give it to Ixis, so he's officially a traitor. Elias throws the thankfully sheathed sword of light at Sonic to allow him to fight Ixis with it and purge evil. I'm guessing he's gonna lose for the sake of drama, especially since Ixis has so many different abilities and Sonic doesn't have the guts to accurately hit a person with a blade. Man, the story sucked. In the next story, Eggman says that he's using every last watt from his own city to open the portal to the special zone. Really? They're making a portal too? Again, they don't have 50 rings, so this feels very arbitrary. At first I thought Snively had hair again, but later I see he's just wearing a weird helmet that he never bothers to wear in the Eggmobile. Feist greets them for the first time and says that they'll have to race each other for the Chaos Emerald. Snively thinks about how if he won, he could leave Eggman behind and go rescue the Iron Queen, which is why I'm guessing he won't be allowed to win, because that would be too interesting. Why did Snively's Eggmobile blow up and send him falling out of it? That was extremely arbitrary. It's like the writer reached down from the sky into the comic and blew it up himself out of spite. Then after Eggman gets the emerald, it vanishes, and Feist says for his own amusement that Eggman can choose between Snively or the emerald. Of course he chooses the emerald. Eggman then says that nobody denies him anything, pressing a button on his Eggmobile. This warps Snively away with him, saving him from the special zone effortlessly so he can continue taking advantage of him. I guess him actually leaving him there would be too interesting, and be a waste of a character if he never gets to leave it. This issue is by Ian Flynn. The first story, which has no logic to it whatsoever, has Jeffrey take over the microphone on Mina's concert before she could go back to playing happy tunes. First off, the heroes randomly decide to come to the concert when you'd think they would furiously swear off her concerts after last time, so them even being here is arbitrary. Well, they don't necessarily have to swear off her concerts forever, but at least for a short amount of time. Like, how are they supposed to trust her to stop singing against Nicole at this point? And second, Mina decided to hold a free concert, which no musician would ever do. This is an extremely flimsy premise, just to give Jeffrey an excuse to take the microphone, try to rally the public against Nicole, though fortunately he fails and the Freedom Fighters fight him. But I refuse to believe that he'd do that well against all of them ganging up on him at once, without using any magic at all. Especially Bunny, who has a force field ability, and he takes out her in one punch. He's not even using any magical powers! That would have made things believable, aside from the one that he used off-screen to break out of Nicole's bubble because Diabolus Ex Machina. This is written like a bad fanfiction, glorifying Jeffrey by making him like this unstoppable god, without even making him use cool powers. Ixis, meanwhile, easily gets to the council with his powers, but instead of brainwashing them right away, like would be smart, or casting a spell on them, like what brainwashed the soldiers to go against the Robians, Sonic manages to come in through the window, because Ixis for some reason forgot to cover the windows. Although, how is he supposed to know that Sonic would be able to come in through the window when it's that high up anyways? That was also flimsy. And then he faces him off with the Sword of Light. I hope that's what it's called. It's been so long that I don't really remember. It was an epic, intense story, but Jeffrey's reasoning falls apart since it only makes sense for him supporting Sally's father, not at all explaining why he'd help someone as obviously evil as Ixis. Because he doesn't have a reason. Either he's brainwashed and trying to rationalize it away himself, or it's horrible writing. That's not to say that I don't like the concept, in theory, but it just doesn't make any sense the way it's executed. And the second story has the interesting concept of Eggman Snively going into a special stage, somehow creating a portal to it without 50 rings. Eggman actually agrees to Feist's challenge because of a childish sense of fun, and chooses the emerald over Snively, just to warp him home with them later. The big problem with the story is that it has a Sonic Colors problem, of introducing two really juicy plot ideas and then just refusing to use them. Snively could have won and left Eggman behind to try to save the Iron Queen, which I would have had no problem with since Eggman has done basically nothing interesting at all since he came back. And for the second one, Eggman chose an emerald over Snively, and Sonic had implied earlier that while Feist freed him out of boredom with him, getting home would have been a nightmare if the portal hadn't stayed open. So Eggman could have ditched him there, and we get to see the Zone of Silence fleshed out more as Snively tries to conquer his way home or something. Maybe he could have striked up a deal with Feist to become more powerful. Instead, neither of those things happen, because of Snively's strange acting Eggmobile. The first, the writer comes down from the sky and smites his Eggmobile so it'll arbitrarily catch on fire and send him out of it. The second, turns out Snively's Eggmobile had a program that it would warp back home with Eggman when he pressed a button on his own Eggmobile. Which only makes sense, but wasn't foreshadowed at all before this point, for the sake of a joke, I guess. Now I could understand the cursing if it was implied that Snively's Eggmobile was poorly made, and more likely to start burning and stuff from exertion, but it wasn't. And while Eggman could have pressed the button to trigger a trap and sabotage his Eggmobile, he had no way of knowing that they were going to have to compete with each other, and he'd ever be able to take advantage of that function at all unless it was in their case Snively did something with the Eggmobile they didn't want him to do. But that isn't explained beforehand either. It just happened to randomly screw over Snively. It's nothing but missed opportunities.